Good morning. I'm Pastor Tully here with my Wednesday morning message. Happy Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent, to each of you. My Lenten challenge to myself and to everyone in the congregation this year is to read the entire New Testament over the course of 40 days. I've got this Bible here, and in the beginning of the Bible, there's this little diagram that kind of shows the books of the Bible arranged in different sections. And it got me wondering, I'm going to read the New Testament, what order do we read it in? Do we just start at the beginning, just start with Matthew and work our way all the way to the end? Or should we read different letters in different order? So when we think about the New Testament structure, we got the four Gospels. Those books are arranged in the order that they were written. They all tell the same story, the story of Jesus' life, his death, ministry, resurrection. And they all cover the same time period. Matthew was believed to have been written first, but many scholars now think that Mark was actually written first. Immediately following those books comes Acts, which takes place right after Jesus' resurrection and covers the spread of the good news throughout the whole area and talks about Saul/Paul starting all of these new churches. Same guy who wrote Luke also wrote Acts, so you could read Luke and Acts together. Then they come the letters. Now, the letters in the Bible are arranged in an order that really doesn't make sense to me. They're not arranged chronologically. They're arranged from longest to shortest. So you got 13 letters of Paul, Romans being the longest, and then that ends with Philemon. It's the shortest. It's just one chapter, only about 25 verses. Likewise, the 8 general epistles are in longest to shortest orders, with Hebrews being the longest and Jude being the shortest. Very short book right before Revelation. I think having Revelation at the end, that makes sense. But the same guy who wrote Revelation also wrote the Gospel of John. So you could read John alongside or right before Revelation. One reading order I saw put together a list. This one is about 92 days long, and it covers all the scriptures of the Bible. And so it takes the Gospels and kind of slices them up from Jesus' birth, recruiting disciples, ministry, Sermon on the Mount, through Jerusalem, and then death and resurrection. And then, of course, it jumps into Acts, but it's got the letters like Galatians and Thessalonians and Romans kind of interspersed throughout the book of Acts based on when those events happened. That's a really interesting way to read the Bible. I think it would get a little disjointed because you'd be reading different Gospels each day, and that might be confusing. Another one I found is kind of the same thing, except it doesn't split the letters up from the book of Acts. But I did find this one, which was really interesting, and it thinks about the Bible in terms of 4 tracks, in terms of who the Bible was written for. So the first track is really focused on the Jews. So it starts with Matthew, which was a gospel written for a Jewish audience. And then it goes to the book of Hebrews, which is a letter written to the early Christians living in Israel. And then James and Jude. Another one of the tracks in this reading path, it starts with Luke, and then it does Acts. And then it does the different letters of Paul, but they're not in the order they are in the Bible. They're in the order that they were written. So it's now it starts with Romans, because that kind of gives you a really big general overview of what the letters are all about. But then it goes into Corinthians and Galatians and Thessalonians in the order that they were written. And then the last track is John, which includes the Gospel of John, the letters of John, and then John's revelation about the future, the prophecy book. And so that's actually the track that I'm going to take. I'll be making frequent videos throughout Lent, kind of updating you on what I've been reading. Love to hear from each of you about what you've been reading and what order you're reading the New Testament in. So I got to go. I'm going to go read some Matthew.